11:05 at KEGL, Fort Worth, Dallas, and J.D. Ryan, minus my partner in crime tonight, Michelle Dibble, who is taking a little time off over the holidays. But we do have the talk show anyway from now until 1 o'clock this morning. Kind of a special guest in the studio tonight. No, we don't have a psychic along. We don't have Dallas ballet people. No, we have the boss, the head man of the radio station, our program director, John Roberts.
I think to do this job properly sometimes, though, you have to be a psychic.
Look into the future.
How come Michelle's off and we're still here?
You gave her the week off.
I did do that.
Yeah, all right. So Michelle's kicking back a little bit, but tonight we're going to talk about radio and the career.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, you have questions you've always wanted to ask. There's questions about radio. Why radio stations do what they do? Why do they play what they do? Why do they have the disc jockeys that they have? By golly, this is the guy. He does the hiring. He does the firing. He does the music. He does all that stuff. This is the program director of the #1 contemporary hit radio station in Dallas-Fort Worth, and basically the phone lines are open at 787-197-1. It's kind of let me speak to the manager night.
Hey, I just thought I should point out here that our general manager had the idea for this. You hear Moby refer to him as King Eddie.
King Eddie, yeah.
And at the last minute,
yes,
he came up a little bit ill. I don't understand how he managed to come up under the weather at about the 9 o'clock mark this evening.
Good timing there, Eddie. And went, oh, yeah, I forgot about that that cold I was going to have.
Anyway, so if there's any real serious questions, I think we'll just call him at home and ask him.
Let's call him up at the house. No, but anyway, 787-197-1 if you'd like to talk to the boss tonight. Also, if we run out of radio questions, this is the man that knows everything there is to know about wrestling, all right? So
professional wrestling, we can talk about that for 2 hours with no problem.
It could be fun tonight.
The music business, careers in radio, what goes on behind the scenes of the Eagle, and how stations determine what format they're going to do. Just about anything that relates to the industry, and we'll just wing it and see what happens. If it gets real dull, we'll go to an open forum by midnight.
We'll play some music. No, I'll tell you what we do.
I've even got the morning astrology guy here, just in case you missed it this morning. You weren't up early. But,
all right. Well,
we're covered. Why don't we go ahead?
On the request lines, a lot of times people call and say, well, how do you get into radio? So that's a good question to start out with. You ready to jump into the phones?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Dare we do it? Hotline 1, you're on the Eagle. Hello, darling. Try it again. Line 1?
Yeah, this is Mark.
Hi, Mark.
How you doing?
Ray, go ahead. You're talking to John Roberts.
Yeah, I'd like to know how come we can't hear more of Moby.
There you go.
What do you mean you can't hear more of him? He's on every morning from 5 till 9. We have the Best of Moby show on Saturdays from 6 till 10. In fact, even this week, while he's on vacation, we will have a special week-long edition of the Best of Moby.
I go to work early every morning, and I only get to hear him about 30 minutes, and then I can't hear him no more.
What time would you like him to get off, sir? About noon?
No.
Oh.
Why can't he go to work like at 3?
Oh, okay.
Oh, you want him in the afternoon?
No, he wants him on at 3 in the morning.
In the morning?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, we'll work on that. I personally would love to see that.
I'd just like to say that there's a lot of listeners out there who really appreciate him, and he makes our day early every morning.
Did he call you up at home and ask you to do this?
No. This is the first time I've ever had to get a chance to listen to the talk show, so I thought I'd call in.
Well, we do thank you very much for listening, and obviously, the longer we could have him on, the better. But, even he gets tired after about 4 hours.
That's true, but, some of us have to work.
A little earlier.
We appreciate the fact that you like him so much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Eagle.
Of course, that's why we did move him from 6 to 10 to 5 to 9.
Right,
so the earlier
shift could get a chance to hear him.
Yeah, that's a ticket. Line 4. Hi, you're on the Eagle.
Hi, I was wondering how you know what songs are going to be hits.
Oh, that's a tough one.
I'm going to leave that one for you. Go right ahead.
Well, you never can really be sure, Obviously, the longer that you do this for a career, the better your gut instincts become. But also, you have a lot of research information that's at your disposal. We work with a research company that keeps on top of what the folks in Dallas-Fort Worth really think are the most popular songs. We talk to the record stores, find out what songs are selling. And, of course, when you call in and ask for a song, we keep track of that, too.
Okay, thanks.
It's kind of a hit-and-miss process a lot of times, but most of the time,
if your batting average is good, then your ratings stay up and you become the #1 station like we've been for over 3 years. So we must be batting okay.
We're doing all right. Hi, line 5. You're on the Eagle.
Okay, I've been wanting to go to college to become a radio broadcaster, and I was wondering if you could send me some information on how the radio station works and on what courses to take in order to become a radio broadcaster.
Okay, well, that's a great question. There's a lot of different ways that folks who end up being in the radio business get there. College is one way for sure. And I think if that's what you've decided you want to do, you can't go wrong with that. But the thing to keep in mind is to take a wide variety of courses. A lot of folks these days are really concentrating on marketing and business. because broadcast courses, radio, TV courses in college have a tendency to deal with a lot of history and a lot of theory, and that's great. You should know that. You should take those courses too. But the reality is that radio is business, and you need to be able to compete in a business situation. Even if you're going to be an on-the-air performer, you still need to understand promotion and marketing, because really, as we get into the 90s, that's the most important thing there is. So I would suggest that you go to a school that not only has a radio and TV department that's strong, but also has a marketing and business course that's very strong.
Okay.
You know, some of the other ways to get in, some of the folks go to particular broadcast training schools, and, you know, they get, those particular type of schools get run down a lot. They get criticized for not being practical, but I think that's totally untrue. I think in those particular cases, you have to, as an individual, really concentrate on what you're there for and not be distracted by the other folks who maybe aren't concentrating as well. But if you apply yourself in that particular type of school situation, you can usually get out of it the most important thing, I think, that they can show you, and that's how to look for a job. So
also a lot of mistakes that people do make to go to the broadcasting schools, think they're going to walk right out of there and they're going to be Kid Craddock, you know, next Monday. They're going to. It took Kid and it took Moby and all of us to work at this level a long time to get here. So that's one thing you got to understand. Like any other business, I mean, like no matter what you do.
You mentioned the college situation. You still with us? The caller still with us?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you mentioned the college situation, and that's very true even in that particular type of way to break into radio. I went to college for 2 years, and I was part of the radio and TV department at this particular college in Indiana. And I'd say out of the 30 of us who were there, only 2 of us, I believe, ever got into the radio business professionally, simply because the other 28 did just what J.D. mentioned that a lot of people do. They thought they were going to get right out of that particular school and go directly into Indianapolis or Chicago radio, and of course that's not the way it is. You've got to be prepared to start in small towns for small money and work the middle of the night shift and weekends and holidays, and that's all part of paying your dues. It's kind of like being a professional athlete, and, you know, there's a Brian Bosworth comes along once every 5 years, but everybody else who plays professional ball starts in the minor leagues and works their way up.
Because I do live in a small town, so,
Do they have a small radio station where you are?
yes.
Well, that's the kind of a radio station where you should try to get your first job after you get your education.
Because I've sent away to this Columbia School of Broadcasting for some stuff, and
Right.
it was just a brochure, and it was telling about, like, that the teachers are the on-the-air people, and that they're the ones that teach your classes and stuff, and I didn't know if that was going to be good or not.
Well, it depends. I mean, in some situations, in some schools, that is the way they do it. And if they have good teachers, if they have people who are interested in really helping you, then that does help. I mentioned I went to college for 2 years. I also went to a broadcasting school in Philadelphia. I did that for 1 year after I decided that 2 years of college was enough for me. So I had it both ways, and it's just as I mentioned earlier. If you apply yourself and you have a couple of good folks that work at the particular broadcasting school, then that can pay off for you too.
Okay.
Appreciate your call. It's just about 11:15. You're listening to 97.1 KEGL, the talk show. Line 1, you're talking to the boss man, John Roberts.
Hi, how you doing?
Great.
I was wondering, okay, you know how a disc jockey works for 4 hours?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does he work another 4 hours after that when
No.
he's there? He doesn't? Great.
No, the fact of the matter is that he does do a lot of other work.
Other work besides that?
But primarily what his work entails is preparing for the next show.
Right.
Now, when, you know,
Everything.
a good radio person comes on the radio and is able to talk to you about what's going on in sports, what's going on in the entertainment industry around the country and in this particular city, in this case, that stuff just doesn't pop up out of thin air. You've got to spend some time getting it all organized and getting ready so you know what you're doing. I would say that the average person who works 4 hours on the radio probably works a 6.5, 7 hour day altogether when you count their preparation time.
Yeah, we go through a day with what Moby does. He gets here at what? He goes on the air at 5:30, gets here at 4.
Yeah,
He's on
about
there,
4:30.
About 4:30, something like that. Goes through the paper, the early stuff. Goes through the Associated Press wire for anything that's happened overnight. Then he's on the air until 9, and he's here until noon normally, going through his mail and going through any other things he has, like the next day's astrology guide and things like that, getting all that ready. So you put all that together, and that's about an 8-hour day.
Plus, I know in his particular case, he works about an hour and a half every afternoon at the house.
Yeah.
So, really.
Cleaning up. And,
well, no. I mean, no, I was being serious. He does. He'll watch the early newscast and pick up on some things that are going on that way. It gives him some more ideas to talk about the next morning. So it's not really the 3 or 4 hour job that you think it is. Although, you know, some guys who don't apply themselves, maybe that's all they put in. I know at some radio stations I've worked at, there's guys that only do that, but they don't last very long.
They sell cars soon, all right?
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks for your call. It's about 11:15 in line 4. Hi, you're on the Eagle Talk Show.
Hi, JD.
Yo, baby.
Yes, I was wondering if you could explain maybe yours and also John Roberts' past background as for developing up to broadcasting. getting to the Eagle.
Don't start this with me. All right, let's go, John. John,
Well, we'll do mine. That should take up about an hour and 45 minutes, and the show will be over.
I'm going to go wash my
brief.
car. I'll be right back.
Well, I think I mentioned 2 years of college, 1 year broadcasting school.
Yeah.
And then when I was 21, I turned pro at a tiny little radio station in just outside Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And that was 12 years ago. And let's see, since then I've worked in about 16 different stations in about 12 different states. Each one a little bit bigger than the last one.
So did you get like a bachelor's degree or?
No. I like I say, I was going to a 4-year school, going for a BA, and after 2 years I said, hey, I just want to spend my time in the radio business, and I got tired of going to history classes and computer programming classes and whatnot, so I quit and went to a broadcasting school for 1 year, and that basically taught me the specifics of different elements of the radio business and also how to look for a job. And then I went out and got one. I started as an air talent. When you start in a small market station, when you're a disc jockey on the air, that also means you do commercials, you write news, you write commercials. I did sports, I did ball games, and, you basically become a jack of all trades.
Everything.
As you work your way up into the bigger stations, then your duties become more specific.
Okay, what about JD now?
Oh, geez.
JD, can I say one thing?
Sure.
This is David YB Normal.
Oh, hi, Dave.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
I'm glad to know that.
Yeah. All right. Really, I started out in a college radio station, just actually doing it for fun in between classes. My degree is in aviation technology. My life took kind of a strange turn. I got a 4-year degree in aviation technology. Started out at a small little college radio station up in Durant, Oklahoma. By golly, 10-watt FM radio station. Did the morning show.
You realize that you probably have about almost all your light bulbs are bigger than 10 watts at your house?
It was a very small radio station. Then moved to the commercial station in Durant, and then went up to Missouri, and started a little 1,000-watt AM radio station. Did that for 3 years while I finished my degree. Came to Dallas, worked at a country station here, worked at the now defunct 92 radio station. Came to the Eagle for 3 years. Been here, and I'm just happy as a clam. But I've been doing it, since 76 full-time. What does that make, 12?
When you started out, did you want to become a disc jockey, or did you just want to?
I started actually just to have some fun and make some extra money while I was going to school and get my degree. And by the time I got out of school, I said, "No, wait a minute. There's about 1,200 Braniff pilots walking the street, and I can make money being in radio." So
if things get tough, he's going to fly Black Thunder. I just want
That bucket of bolts?
That's right.
And I'm JD Ryan at the controls of Black Thunder.
Yeah, but I started out with the intention of being a sports play-by-play guy.
Really?
Yeah.
When did you change?
Well, I found out in a hurry that in a small market radio station, the kind where they pay you $110 a week, they don't have just one sports play-by-play guy. There isn't enough to do to justify that as a full-time salary. So you got the job to be a disc jockey, and then on Friday night or whenever the football game was, then you got to go and do that too as part of your work.
Did you guys do any tape-delayed games? Did you guys ever get into that?
No.
We would run like 3 games on a Friday night. We'd do one live and tape delay 2. That's how bad. That's how small market we were.
And I was wanting to mention this one common fact. I don't know if there's many viewers out there that remember this station when it was Z97.
Oh, yeah, the old days.
There's probably a few.
Yeah, probably a few. And I've been listening to it ever since then. So
You've been around a long time.
Well, I'm not that old. Come on.
You're listening to the radio.
Well, we appreciate you listening to the Eagle. That's all that counts now.
Okay, the Eagle rocks.
Thanks for the call.
Thank you, Dave. We appreciate it, buddy. It's about 11:20, 97.1 KEGL. This is the Sunday Night Talk Show. JD Ryan, I guess I never did give my official title at the radio
the
station.
assistant program director and music director. I kind of keep that in the dark. Moby says you're just my boy.
I kind of wax the van and do a couple other things and hang around the radio station a lot. But I'm also on during the middays, and we do, of course, the talk show here with Michelle Dibble. She's on vacation this week, and we brought in the boss man, the main guy, to field all your questions about radio as a career, music, how we put a radio station together, the competition, Dallas as a market, whatever you'd like to talk about, we're ready for you at 787-1971. You ready to jump into some more of it?
Yeah, the main reason that we've given JD that title of assistant program director, and that's so that if there's any complaint calls that come in, he handles all.
I get all the people saying, "Why the hell you?" Hi, line 5, you're on the Eagle.
Yes, I have a suggestion and a question.
Great.
Go ahead.
Okay, I've been listening to Dewey Patterson shows during the weekend.
Uh-huh.
And I really like her, and I was wondering if you could move up her shows on the weekdays so more school kids could listen to her.
Well, we appreciate the fact that you like her, and we like her a lot too. She's been with us now, I guess, about 3 years.
Well, 3 years. Yeah.
And if something should come open, we would certainly keep that in mind. I know she kind of likes the hours that she works now, but you can check her out on your vacations and during the summer.
Okay, and also, how do you monitor the foul language that y'all use?
Oh, we don't use any foul language.
No.
No, we just, we're just normal people, and you try to talk like a normal individual. And we've never really encountered that as a problem. I mean, with some specific guys, you take a little more caution than you would with others. But
we have guidelines. I mean, we have certain guidelines we set forward, and every once in a while, like in life, like everywhere else, people step over the guidelines, and you smack them in the head, and they don't do it again.
Okay.
All right?
Thanks.
Thanks for your call. We appreciate it. About 11:21 on the Eagle Talk Show. Hi, line 1, you're with us.
Yeah, this is Alex.
Howdy, Alex.
Hey, I was wondering, let's see, what are the usual pay for, the work hours?
Good question. Good question.
Well, you talking about on a station in Dallas or at or any radio station?
Well, on the Eagle, say, Moby or something.
Well, that's not average. Let's not talk average.
Well, let's. I think it's easier to answer the question in terms of the city, in terms of stations as big as the Eagle.
Give a range,
because it's really hard to say. Every individual has a specific contract. But in markets of this size, in stations this big, an average radio disc jockey probably makes in the $50,000 range. Really? And, but there are others in that same station who might make $500,000 a year. Now, that's at this major top. It's it's basically, if you looked at, compare it to sports, that's at the major league level. Now, if you were in the same job in a starting station or the minor league level or even AAA.
An Austin, a San Antonio, Oklahoma City.
The average pay might be $15,000 or $20,000 a year, and there's probably nobody in that station making more than $50,000. So, it does range. Now, like I said, 12 years ago when I started, I made $5,000 a year in my first job.
Okay.
So it really depends on how big the city is, how big the station is, and what particular job you've got in there. But there's money to be made.
Oh, yes.
You just have to be able to realize that it's going to take several years of hard work and extra effort to get to the level of polish where you're going to get the job that pays the $250,000 a year.
And get an agent. Okay?
No, you don't need an agent.
Is Dibble cute? She sounds so cute.
Ooh, she's marvelous, darling. Ooh. She's blonde and
We
tall.
love girls with blonde hair.
Oh, yeah. All right, hey, call her up.
Thanks,
She'll send you a picture. Bye-bye, Alex. We appreciate your call. Hi, line 3. You're on the Eagle Talk Show.
Yeah, how you doing, JD?
Pretty good. How you tonight?
Oh, I'm doing just fine.
Great, man.
Say, my question is, I used to work for a radio station back when I was about 17 years old.
Was it a big one or a little one?
It was a real little one. In town, it was about 6,000 people.
Okay, then you know what we're talking about low money when you start out.
Yes, it was very low. I was working weekends only as a disc jockey, and I got hired just from going in there all the time and doing some talking to my friend.
Right.
And what I was wondering is, I went to a radio station here about a year ago to see about any openings as disc jockeys, and they told me I needed a demo tape.
Right.
What kind of material would be good to do a demo tape on?
Okay, well, the fact of the matter is that in order to get any kind of a job in the radio business as an on-air performer, you have to be able to demonstrate to the prospective program director that you can indeed do the job. Now, you obviously worked at some station, as you mentioned, a long time ago, but what you would really need to prove to me or anybody in my position that you work there would be a tape of one of your actual performances there. Now, if you don't have that, obviously you don't in this case, then what you should do is put together a simulated radio show. In other words, if you were working at that station, what would you have sounded like? And that's the kind of thing you're looking for. For instance, if you want to work at the Eagle, rock and roll music, lots of fun, and that kind of thing, you want to put together a demo tape that displays that you could sound like somebody who works on the Eagle. And that's really the only way that you can theoretically, get a job in this kind of a radio station, because anybody can walk in and say, hey, when I was 17, I used to work at this station in a small town.
And boy, was that great.
Yeah. Okay, well, show us what you can do. Well, I don't have any tapes. You don't know how many times I get applications here from guys with an extensive amount of experience, supposedly, who have no tape recorder material from any of the stations they've ever worked at. And to me, that's ludicrous. I mean, I've worked, as I mentioned, in about 18 stations in 12 years, and I can give you a tape from every last one of them.
Yeah.
Even if it's only one day.
Okay, so say if I was to do a simulated demo tape, what would be a good material, just like a regular broadcast like y'all are doing now?
Absolutely. Well, really what you would do is if you wanted to be on a station like ours where we play music, you should show us what you would sound like being a music disc jockey.
Oh, okay.
The average tape consists of about 3 to 5 minutes of your best stuff, basically. Talk up intros, have a good time, maybe a joke or two. It doesn't have to be funny, if that's not your thing, whatever. It'd be relatable. Talk about what the Cowboys are doing. The generals.
If you were working on this station, what would you sound like? That's what that demo tape should show.
Okay. Something else I wanted to ask real quick is a lot of times, like when y'all have, you're not taking, say, like you're not trying to give away tickets or nothing, you're just on the air, and someone tries to call up there and that phone can ring for 10 minutes. How come it doesn't get answered?
Well, I'll tell you.
Question.
That's while the guy who's the performer is playing the music, he's also basically being an engineer. He's pushing all the buttons. He's setting up all the tapes for the next sequence of songs, for the next sequence of commercials, for the next series of jingles. He's calling the Weather Bureau to find out the latest weather. Basically, he needs to be an octopus with about 99 arms.
There's no time to sit back and do your nails.
We really, if we're doing our jobs right on the radio, we will come off like we're just sitting there waiting for the song to end and have the next witty thing to say.
Yes.
But the reality is that while the song is playing, a guy is doing about 10 other things to get ready for the next time he opens the mic. And considering that we have about 10 lines that ring into the studio, if we have an opportunity to answer one or two between each song, you can understand why we don't always get to that last one, and maybe you just got unlucky sometimes.
Okay. Well, y'all have a good Happy New Year's and a great holiday.
Thank you for listening to the Eagle.
Thank you.
Thank you lots. About 11:27 now on the Eagle Talk Show. Your chance to talk to the boss, the head guy, the program director of KEGL, Fort Worth, Dallas, John Roberts, and line 4. Hi there. You're on the Eagle Talk Show.
Hey, how's it going, JD?
Great.
Listen, I had a question about the morning people.
Okay, great.
A while back, y'all had guys, Stevens and Pruitt, Moby. Is it because y'all switched so much because of the people calling in and criticizing, or is it because of the ratings? Or
you mean as far as why those other guys aren't here anymore and why Moby's here?
Yeah.
I believe that it was a situation where the morning show ratings weren't as good as they should have been, and they felt that we'd be better off to make a change. So that I can tell you that I wasn't here at the time, but nonetheless, the last year and a half's ratings growth in the mornings indicates that the decision was the right one. But that's primarily it. Sometimes guys get other offers. For instance, you might have the J.D. Ryan could be sitting here right now and be perfectly happy, but maybe a station in New York City comes along next year and offers him twice as much money to go there. Sometimes it's just a situation where there's a better career opportunity.
And if you're listening in New York, my home address is...
Does that help?
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you for your call. Hi there, line 5. You're on the Eagle.
Yeah, so how would someone be interested in music directing? Would he necessarily have to have an announcing background experience?
Well, it's not. It's just like I said about my own career, thinking about being the next play-by-play sportscasting legend. The answer to the question is that no, you don't need to be an on-air person to be a music director, just like you don't have to be an on-air person to be a general manager or program director. The problem is that in order to get your break in the smaller market situations, in order to get your foot in the door of the radio business, you're going to have to go to one of those smaller situations where they don't have the specialized position of a music director.
Like copywriting, or say I have a copywriting background.
Okay, well, a copywriter, usually even in a small market station, the copywriter and the production person are one and the same. So not only would you have to be able to write it, you'd have to be able to go in there and voice it and put the music together to make it a finished product in most small market cases. And it's the same thing with music director in most of the small market cases. In fact, most of the large market cases, the music director wears two hats. And in our particular case, that's JD's job. So he's also on the radio and as well as being the music director. There are very few stations that have specialized off-air music directors. You usually have to have at least one other area of responsibility to make up your salary.
Okay, what would you suggest to one who can constantly predict songs before, like on promotional albums before they hit nationally?
Well, you know what I think you should do, seriously? I think there's probably a record company out there that would love to have you working for them simply because that's half of what they pay their A&R people to do. Somebody who can listen to a demo tape come in and say, that's the band, that's the song, we'll market that one and it'll become number one. If you've got that knack, you should be making big money working for a record label.
Okay, because I'm a graduate from Columbia and I also have an associate's degree. And I have an internship in another local radio station.
Right.
So I was just very curious.
Okay. Well, hey, if you do want to stay radio side, then that's fine too. But you're going to probably have to be able to do something other than just be the music director as you work your way up.
Okay, thank you very much.
Appreciate your call. 787-1971, the telephone number tonight to talk to the boss on the Eagle Talk Show. Hi there, line 1, you're with us.
Hi, how can you afford to give away all the money and tickets that you do?
I didn't get a Christmas bonus this year, does that tell you? No.
We just don't pay these guys very much. Actually, radio is a business, and to touch on it briefly, every time you hear a commercial for a particular business on the radio station or on any radio station, that business is paying the radio station money to broadcast that particular commercial. So let's say if the commercial cost $100 if it cost the company $100, maybe out of that $100, 20 of it goes to pay the people who work here, 10 of it goes to pay for the equipment, and that leaves $70 left over. Maybe 30 of that goes into the contest file, and we can turn around and give that back to you. The other 40 goes into the company profits, because after all, it is a business. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
If you multiply it thousands of times over across a year, if a radio station does $1 million in business, maybe it sets aside $1,000 to give away back to the listeners to thank them. Obviously, in our case, because we give away, in the last year, we've given away $1 million. In fact, we're well on our way to almost $2 million.
Almost $2 million.
In the Eagle Cashing Cars contest. That we're bringing in a lot more than that in revenue from the sale of the commercials in order to have that much left to turn around and give back to you.
The average Dallas-Fort Worth radio station, bills, can you say somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million a month?
I would say that's probably right.
So that gives you an idea.
$1 million times 12, that's $12 million a year.
Boy.
Yeah, it's big business, but that's again in the major league level. Sure. That's why the Dallas Cowboys charge $22 for a ticket, and if you went to a semi-pro team in Tucson, you'd pay $2 a ticket. Yeah. See, you're paying for the quality product. The business that supports it with the advertising is paying for the quality product. You guys get it for free.
All righty?
Yeah.
Thank you for your call. We do appreciate it. Hi there, line 2. You're with us on the Eagle Talk Show.
Hi, JD. This is Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
How you doing?
Great.
I got a question for John.
Go ahead.
Hit him with it.
Okay. How do you become a traffic reporter?
I think I've heard this question from you before.
Dum-de-dum-dum.
Actually, it's like I said. You have to find a way to get into the radio business in another role, because primarily there is not a specific position just for a traffic reporter. There may be in some stations, but you either have to be able to fly the plane, which Hollywood does in our case, or you have to be able to wear another hat inside the radio station. So it's just like any other of the special positions in a major market radio station. You must start out wearing all the hats and then work your way into the one that really, is of the most interest to you.
Oh, really? So you have to have that experience of the air personality?
Well, it doesn't hurt. It's another way. It's another way to get in, because let's face it, you're a reporter. You are broadcasting important traffic information to thousands of people. You should be an experienced, polished personality when you're delivering that information.
No sooner than we make a set rule like that. Don't everybody, somebody comes along that has never been in radio or whatever. But for the most part, yeah, you've been on the radio before. Okay, Wendy?
Okay.
All right, appreciate your call. Hi there, line 3. You're on the Eagle Talk Show with us.
Well, I wanted to ask why a lot of stations do some of the same things in their different cities,
Say that again now?
One more time.
I want to know why stations do a lot of the same things in different cities.
Oh, good question.
Well, I think that it's just like anything else. You find out about other businesses that are like yours, and you find out what's working to make those stations successful, and you steal them. It's basically what it is.
You're talking about contests and jingles and that type of thing?
Yeah, it's like they're related or something. I don't know.
Well, a lot of times
sometimes that's true. I mean, the company that owns the Eagle owns 7 or 8 other radio stations in 7 or 8 other cities. So there may be some similarities there. But oftentimes you'll find that there is no business connection between the two stations. They've just heard about a station in a city that's doing something well, and they'll basically try to work it into their own station.
A station in Oklahoma City will hear the Eagle jingles or an Eagle contest, and they'll say, "Hey, that's a great idea. Let's do that." Of course, their listeners in Oklahoma City have, maybe have heard it down here, but for the most part haven't. And so, what the heck?
See, if you're living here, how would you know really that if we're doing something that was stolen from a station in Los Angeles? I mean, the odds are that maybe you wouldn't know. You just know whether or not it's any good or not if you like it.
Yeah.
Understand?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the call.
It's 11:35 on the Eagle Talk Show, 97.1 KEGL. Hi there, line 2.
Yeah, I want to ask a question about
how much a commercial costs, like a minute on prime, whenever most people listen.
See, that's when...
Prime time?
Yeah.
That's where we need that general manager.
Let's call him at home.
Call him at home, wake him up. Geez, it really depends on the specific station. I would say in prime time it could be anywhere from $150 to $500. It really just depends on what station, what particular time of the day, as far as in the Dallas-Fort Worth marketplace.
Oh.
Okay?
Thanks.
Sure.
Appreciate your call.
You know, I think this is a great opportunity to mention with New Year's coming up that the Eagle is ready to roll into 1988 with a look back at the music of 87.
Ah, yes.
See, this is how you learn to do this.
This is part of what you do.
Thursday afternoon at 4 o'clock. You want to make sure you check out the annual countdown of the hottest songs from this past year. We call it the Top 97 of 87. It features all the great rock and roll tunes that help make the last 12 months unique. We will put them in the spotlight right through New Year's Day, so there's going to be several chances for you to find out where your particular favorites end up on the chart. Be part of a Metroplex holiday tradition. It's the Eagles' year-end countdown, the Top 97 of 87. It'll get underway this Thursday afternoon at 4. We should wrap up with the number one tune at about midnight, and if you don't have an opportunity to catch the whole thing then, as I mentioned, we'll recycle them through a couple of more times throughout New Year's Day.
You do that so well.
See?
You ought to be in radio.
That's right.
What a concept. That's called a promo, and that's that's part of what the air personalities do. But delivering it, like you're just saying, it is all part of the hard part of becoming an air personality.
That's part of the polish that you learned when you make mistakes in the little stations. Then, by the time you've got it down pat where you can do it in your sleep, then you get to the big station.
There you go. Hi, line 4. You're with us on the Eagle.
Hi, I'm Sandy.
Hi, Sandy.
I'm calling about Moby in the Morning.
Okay.
I've heard a lot of criticism about him. I think he's great. I really do. I think he starts my mornings off just terrific. When you got rid of Stevens and Pruitt, I was really disappointed in y'all for a while there, but you got a good replacement there.
See, we came back with something even better, right?
Huh?
We came back with something even better.
Well, yeah, I never thought you'd do it. I was pretty ticked off when you did that to me.
You just don't know John Roberts.
We searched high and low. We finally found the Mobaroo.
Yeah, he's good.
He's a great guy.
Great. Y'all got to stay off his case.
Oh, we don't. You mean when he says that I pick on him?
You pick on him all the time.
Oh, you know what I say. As long as the ratings are up, he can do whatever he wants. But heaven help him when those numbers go down. No, they won't go down. No, that's all part of the fun. He knows that sometimes we're just teasing with him, and certain things that we want him to do that he would rather not do. Well, it's just a difference in personal philosophy.
I can see where you can get a little irritated with some of it, but you have to realize these days, if he doesn't say some of the things he says, he wouldn't have so many ratings.
I agree with you 100%. That's why I'm saying we kid around about that a lot of times. But, really, we get along just fine, he and I.
Y'all have happy holidays.
Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye. It's about 11:40 on the Eagle Talk Show. Hi there, line 5. Jump in here.
Yeah, this is Carol.
Hi, Carol.
And I needed to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, my husband, he can write some real beautiful songs, but I don't know who to get in contact to send them to or whatever, and he don't know who.
Okay. Well, actually, probably just about every record company, every major record label has an office in Dallas-Fort Worth. So if you look up in the yellow pages, I would suppose under record companies, you'll get the name of the different labels, and I would suggest that you send them all a letter explaining the situation, and chances are they'll ask you to follow up with some specific demos or whatever of his work or copies of his songs, and that would be the first step I would take.
They have people there that just do just that, listen to demo tapes.
Oh, well, I don't have to make nothing up, do I? Just send it in?
Now, has he written them out, or has he performed them on cassette, or what?
No, he's written them out.
Okay, are they songs, are they lyrics and music?
Yeah, there's songs and lyrics and poems.
Okay, is the music included, or is it mostly just poems?
Well, the music is not included on the song.
So it's the lyrics.
Yeah.
You just write him a letter explaining just like you did to us, and chances are that there may be one of the 20 or so out there that would be interested enough to ask him to come over and show him the stuff. That's the first step.
Never send it through the mail unless it's copyrighted, though.
Yeah, no, just send a letter. Don't send the lyrics. Just send a letter saying, if you're interested, please call me or whatever, and chances are they'll do it.
Okay, I really appreciate it.
Give it a shot. Good luck.
All right,
Thank you for calling. Hi there, line 1. You're on the Eagle Talk Show.
Yeah, JD.
Yo.
First of all, I was going to tell you that I was wanting you to say one thing about the radio business, because my sister-in-law used to work in the Chicago market.
Okay.
At the... Can I say it?
Well, what's your sister's name? Your sister-in-law's name?
It was a stage name.
What was it? What was her stage name?
It was just... She just went by Julie.
Okay, then I can't say I'm familiar with her, so it doesn't matter what station. Go.
In the market for like 8 months and...
In Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay, well...
95.
Okay.
I'm glad you got that in there. Now, see, unless you worked or lived in Chicago, nobody would know what you were talking about. That's why it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Just so you'll understand. It isn't that we have a problem with the letter Z. It's just that nobody would understand. But go ahead.
Go ahead.
What's the question?
Right. Well, first of all, I want to comment. She was here. In fact, we put her on the plane, put her and my brother back on the plane today, and she was going that the radio business is not easy at all. Like, you change jobs quite frequently.
That's true.
Giving me all the big spiel on it. But the other thing is, I know at smaller radio stations, because my cousin used to work at one, that they did all the programming. The program director would sit down and look at the list of songs and make out the list by himself. Do you do it by computer, random selection on computer, or what?
For the most part. I mean, we do, we always take into account special situations where somebody calls in and asks for a special request or whatever, and we have
Moby
special...
doesn't, but
Say it again?
But Moby doesn't.
Well, yes, he does.
He brings stuff in from the house.
He probably does more of it than most of the rest of us, except for possibly Jimmy Steele.
Requests?
Well, I'm saying specifically, for instance, the Texas Bitch
all those
and the
special
Scotsman
songs.
song. They're never on our computer. They're things that he does when he gets asked to do them.
Yeah, but if you call up and ask him to play a song by Ice House or something.
No. Well, only because you got to realize the morning show is so hectic in here. He might say that, yeah.
Well, you have to understand what time of the day it is and all the different things. It's like I mentioned a little while ago, if you were tuned in, the announcer has so many different things that he does while the song is on, particularly in the morning and the afternoon show when you're trying to coordinate weather and traffic information.
Hollywood
news,
yelling at you, yeah.
There's just not a lot of time for that. But he will on occasion do it, but he will normally do it with his comedy-type songs.
Okay.
But for the most part, we do pre-program the day.
Yeah, well, I was just going to tell you, keep it up.
Thank you. We appreciate you listening to the Eagle.
I was going to ask you one thing. Have you heard about your ex-morning team being on the television now?
We heard. We read a review in the USA Today, and we thought the line was pretty funny when they said it was a great show, except for the two guys hosting it. Anyway, but I haven't seen it yet. So,
have you seen the show?
Huh?
Have you seen it?
I saw a video premiere.
What did you think?
It sucked.
Pretty bad.
Well, that's why we have Moby.
Yep.
Guys, love Moby.
Thank you, man. We appreciate it. All right. Weather-wise tonight, boys, it's going to be clear, very, very cold. Low in the lower 20s. Yeah, baby.
Bundle up, baby.
Middle 40s tomorrow, still clear skies. That's the good news. It's 39 and clear right now in Dallas-Fort Worth. Dare we roll on, or should we take a quick break?
Let's go. We're going pretty good here. We're 45 minutes in, and we haven't really been beaten up yet. We haven't had to call the general manager yet. We came close on that one about the commercial.
One close.
Actually, we're doing well. I keep waiting for questions about what happened at Reunion Arena the other night in the big pro wrestling card. But,
yeah, with Fritz von Erich was like...
they had to carry him out.
We'll worry about that. We'll worry about that when it pops up. High line 2, you're with us.
Okay, first of all, I love the Eagle, and I love all the DJs.
Thank you.
Okay, so what happened at Reunion Arena then?
That didn't take long, did it?
Actually, the two remaining Freebirds in the Dallas area, along with Iceman King Parsons, ganged up on Fritz in the ring. He was handcuffed to the ring, and they beat the living daylights out of him, and... really, it was a sad situation. It's funny.
He collapsed or something like that?
He collapsed on his way out of the ring, and they had to take him to Baylor Hospital. But
so that really was true.
yes, that as we understand it, that is the way it happened. And I did see a little piece of videotape about that on the TV last night. So.
Well, I did too, but I didn't know if they was just saying all that or if it was...
No. I mean, they that really did occur. In fact, I wasn't there, but I understand that he had to stay a little bit in the hospital until they made sure that he was okay. I believe he's going to be okay.
He's a tough bird.
Is this the same John Roberts that is always at Sportorium?
Yes, this is me.
Okay, well, you gave me a T-shirt one night.
Well, see? There you go. Hey, I told you that I wanted to be a sportscaster when I started out in the radio business.
Right.
Anyway, there you go. That's what happened.
Thanks for your call.
I'd like to know, frankly, I'd like to know who won the championship match since I wasn't there. I'm presuming that the Latin heartthrob Al Perez is still the world champion.
But if anybody knows,
please call
787-1971. It's 11:45 in line 3. You're on the Eagle Talk Show.
Yes, good evening. I was wondering what you thought the future of the automated radio stations might be.
Thank you for your call, sir. I'm kidding.
Go ahead. That's it? That's the question?
Yeah, I just wondered what you thought about that.
Let's see. I've been in radio for 12 years.
Automated, market? Or?
I've been hearing this stuff for 12 years. And there will be a place for it. There has been for the last 12 years. But primarily there will be small market stations that can't afford the overhead of a staff. There may be the occasional major market station that, due to the specific nature of its music format, wants to stick with a satellite service rather than live talent. But in almost every situation since I've been in the business the last 12 years, that an automated station is trying to go head-to-head with a live station, the live station always wins because, let's face it, if you're automated, you can't be relatable. How can the automated station entertain you other than with the music? See, that's the key. The automated station can't be spontaneous. They can't jump on something that's very popular. For instance, if you go back a couple of weeks when all of a sudden there was the big hubbub about the Dear Mr. Jesus song, an automated station wouldn't have had time to react to that because usually their tape system and automated system is a week or two behind what's going on today. So by the time a station like that would have started to play the song, you'd have been sick of it.
All right, thanks a lot.
Sure.
Thank you very much. We do appreciate your call. Hi there, line 4. You're with us on the Eagle.
Yes, I was wondering who decides the locations of the promotions.
Well, it really kind of depends on what the specific promotion is and where we've been lately. Sometimes we notice that we're going out into the same part of the market more often than we do in other parts, so we try real hard to balance that out. But it really kind of depends. Why do you ask? Have we not come to your area?
I live in Garland, and
Oh, we haven't been over there that much.
Right.
Well, actually, we're coming your way with the next. I believe it's the next Cash and Cars Porsche giveaway is going to be at the Town East Mall.
Oh, okay.
That's in Mesquite, right?
Right.
So that's not too far away. I think that's going to be, if it's not the one on January the 7th, or whatever that second Saturday, January the 9th, whatever that second Saturday in January is. If it's not that one, then it's the one in February, because I know that one of them is at Town East Mall, and the other one's down at Redbird Mall, I believe.
Okay.
So we'll be getting to you.
Thanks for your call. We do appreciate it. And it's about 11:55. J.D. Ryan, minus my cohort in crime tonight, Michelle Tibble, who's taking a little bit of time off for the holidays.
A vacation, a little rest and relaxation.
And the other voice you hear here in the studio is not a psychic or a football player or a professional wrestler, even though he could be a professional wrestler. I've seen him put to sleep or hold on Moby many a time.
That's right.
This is the program director, the head man, the boss of the radio station KEGL, the #1 contemporary hit radio station in Dallas-Fort Worth.
I love it when you say that.
You love it?
I'm sure those weenie competitors don't like that when I say it.
They're going, oh, yeah. Anyway, this is John Roberts, and he's our in-studio guest tonight. You've always wanted to call up. You always want to call up. You call up here in the request line saying, let me talk to the boss. He's normally busy, but tonight, undivided attention to you. It's 787-01-97-1. Any questions doesn't even have to be about the Eagle or Dallas-Fort Worth. It can just be about radio in general.
Careers in radio, what goes on behind the scenes of the radio station, how stations determine what formats they do, contests, etc. That's about it. We've had some good suggestions tonight. Let's see. Moby should go on starting at 3 in the morning and work all the way till noon. He's going to love that.
I think so. And then kids should come on noon to 7.
There you go.
Yeah, it'll be perfect.
And a couple of good ones. And we should give away more money.
More money,
That's right. King Eddie, if he was here, he would really like to.
I think you go right for that.
Heard that one. Okay. Let's roll. Let's roll along here.
Line 1, you're on the Eagle Talk Show. Hi.
Hi, Diddy.
Eddie.
Hi. I was wondering, how do y'all get your ratings? I mean, do you go out and survey people or what?
Okay, well, obviously, if we went out and surveyed people, the Eagle would have 100% of the listeners. No, there are companies that don't work for any of the specific radio stations. They're independent companies that do regular ongoing surveys of radio. In fact, they also do them of television station listeners, what they prefer.
Because that way they usually get people and they send in things, but I didn't understand how they did it with radio.
Well, they do that. They do that with radio as well. Sometimes they'll contact you by the phone, and sometimes they'll contact you through the mail. And that's basically how they do it. They have a regular scientific way of reaching the a percentage of the population that's representative as far as the age groups and the male-female ratio of what's going on in the market. And that's basically how we get them. We get them basically every month.
Mm-hmm. And television ratings are basically, they can do them nightly, and then they have rating sweeps. Radio is monthly.
We get a monthly report, and then we get what we call 4 quarterly reports that are really kind of the big ones.
Those are the ones you see in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We appreciate it. It's almost straight up midnight at KEGL, Fort Worth, Dallas. That's called a legal ID. We always got to get those in at the top of the hour. See, I'm learning.
Government regulations say.
Thank you very much. Line 2. Hi, you're on the Eagle Talk Show.
Hi, yes. My question is, can I ask you about a specific school here in the Dallas area?
Sure, we'll try.
Good, okay, because I'm interested. I'm looking towards a degree, but I'm really not sure what I want to do with it. But what do you think about the Columbia School of Broadcasting in the Dallas area? Is that
Go ahead.
School to go to?
I'm really not familiar with Columbia. Now, they have branches all over the country.
Right.
And I've heard different things about the different ones. Some of the cities have, folks I know in some of the cities have indicated that they thought it was very helpful. Mm-hmm. Others have said they did not feel that it was helpful at all. Now, again, as I mentioned a little while ago, sometimes in those particular technical trade school situations, it really becomes a matter of how much you focus yourself on what's going on. That they present you with the information, but if you don't take the ball and run with it, it may not be their fault. So I'm really not familiar with Columbia in Dallas.
I see. Well, someone like, say, Moby, what type of, does he have a degree in the radio?
Chances, no, I think, in fact, Moby's situation is another one of the ways you can do it. There really are three, and that's, as I mentioned before, college, broadcast trade technical schools, which is like what Columbia is, or just being around a real small town, tiny little radio station and helping out as a way to get your training, basically an on-the-job training situation. And I think some little station in Tennessee was basically near the town where Moby grew up, and he knew somebody who was there, and he just kind of hung around and took out the garbage and, and brought the coffee and that kind of thing. And eventually, somebody said, hey, do you want to try it?
Right, okay, well, thanks.
Thank you. Got on the radio the first morning and said, get your lazy ass. No,
I don't think he did that.
Maybe not. Line 3, hi.
Hi, I have a question.
Okay.
Now, I love Mr. Moby in the morning.
So do we.
I'm convinced that since he knew I was going to be on this show tonight, that he's got all his friends out there calling up, telling me how wonderful he is, so I won't pick on him. No, that's okay, darling. You go right ahead. We appreciate it.
Because he owes me a Moby mug.
Oh, he does? Okay.
But I'm not waiting.
All right. We'll hold him to it. Go ahead.
He promised to me months ago. I'm not holding my breath.
Okay.
But, I hear lots of criticism for the language he uses, the remarks he makes, his jokes as being crude or whatever. He was on Oprah and all that.
Right.
But I've listened because of roommates that I had to other radio stations. And I listened to some of their morning programs, and there's one in particular that's just absolutely terrible. I mean, they don't make, they just don't,
I've dialed through in the morning. That could be one of any.
Yeah, go ahead. What's the point?
They don't allude to, things.
They just say them.
And talk about it.
Right.
And it's really crude and offensive. But I never hear criticism of other radio stations. I only hear criticism of Moby.
Well, and of course, since you don't agree, you're asking me why that is?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, obviously, we don't agree with that either. We agree with you that it's unfair that we take the heat for something that goes on in more than just our station. You're right. I think it really boils down to the rating situation, to be honest. I mean, when you have the most listeners, you're also going to have the most people out there who can hear the station who are really not crazy about it. If you're at a station that isn't as successful in the ratings and therefore has less folks listening, your percentage of those who disagree and want to vocalize about it is going to be smaller too. So I think we catch a little bit extra flack simply because we have such a large number of listeners, and Moby in particular is so well known not only here in Dallas but in the whole country. So I think that's part of the reason.
Sure, you're in the spotlight more, you get more heat,
Yeah.
True. That's just the way it is. I know, there are other shows that are really even nastier, or have been in the past.
The thing about it is, like, when he takes criticism for some of those things, I know one of his biggest beefs with the criticism comes from the fact that the people who do the criticizing don't tune in long enough to hear the entire scope of the program. What they do sometimes is take the comments out of context, and they talk about he made a dirty joke about this or whatever, or he made a crude remark about this other thing. But if they'd have listened 30 minutes longer, they would have heard that he took a child who goes to Scottish Rites Hospital for treatment, for therapy, that he took that child up in Black Thunder on his own time, or that he went and visited a child who had cancer in a children's hospital in Fort Worth.
Played Santa Moby at children's hospitals.
There's everybody has good and bad in the shows, and it's just a matter of whether or not you give it an opportunity to make a fair judgment. Okay? All right?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure, thanks for listening. We appreciate it very much.
Thanks for your call. Hi, 787-1-971, line 4. You're on the Eagle Talk Show. Hi there.
All right, good evening, guys.
Howdy.
Hey, baby.
First of all, this is Rod. I just want to say, guys, it's great, John and JD, for you taking time out to talk to the people about the business.
We're having fun. Thank you. We're having a good time. King Eddie doesn't know what he's missing.
I tuned in late, but I'm enjoying what I'm hearing. First of all, I wanted to say that I am interested in becoming an air personality, if you will. And I'd heard before you said get into the business any way you can, taking out trash or whatever. So I did. I got a job up at Satellite Music Network. You've heard of Z-Rock, which, hate to mention another, station.
We're gonna get. That's one.
That's one. Don't
you
do
don't get
another
two.
one. Don't do another one.
Strike against it. But anyway,
if you're taking out the garbage, you must be one of only 3 people that's listening to that format.
I'm not taking out the garbage, but
okay.
I'm working on the request line and typing up requests.
All right. So your question.
But yes, basically that's my other line.
Well, we're on the air, so
I hate it when we get busy.
You haven't got time to go to the other one.
I'll get to my question quick.
Hurry up.
I like to do voices, and I was interested in voiceovers, say, for commercials, and writing commercials.
Yeah.
How would I get into doing that?
Okay, same way you would get into the radio business as a performer. You would create a demo tape of some of the different voice characters that you can do, and you would send that to radio stations, advertising agencies.
Agencies, very important.
And that would be along with a resume, and that would be an opportunity for them to hear what kind of material you can do, and if they have something that might be of interest, I'm sure they'll call you.
That's not bad at all.
That's the way to do it.
Well, if y'all get an opening, call me.
We'll do it. Karen, get his number.
Yeah, I was going to say, considering they're down to about only 2 stations in the whole country that are running that show, you probably don't have a lot to do over there. Thank you very much.
Hanging around the old place. It's 12:05 on the Eagle Talk Show, and our in-studio guest tonight is the program director, the boss man, John Roberts, here at the Eagle.
He made reference to one of those semi-automated situations that the caller asked about before. And there's a situation where a particular company put together satellite-delivered basically an automation service, although they do have live voices that go along with that. And when they first started out, they talked in grandiose terms of hundreds of cities all over the country that would have a station of this type. And unfortunately, they found out just what we said a little while ago, that when there's a live station in the city with real people talking about real situations going on at that moment in that town up against a station that's automated, the automated station never wins, and that's why that particular organization is down to just about 2 stations, I think, in the whole United States right now.
The only thing I see real sad about satellite radio is it does take a lot of the small market, because small market is inexpensive. It's very inexpensive to run, and small market radio, you lose a lot of the grassroots, a lot of the radio stations. You and I grew up through this business, working at the guys that get on the air and talk about the farm reports and the hospital reports, and
it also could hurt the training situation. We're talking about breaking in small market stations, and if too many of them were to become automated or satellite-delivered formats, then the opportunities for the young disc jockeys to practice just wouldn't be there. So hopefully they won't really grow. And at this point, like I said, for the last 12 years, I've heard this ever since I first got in radio. It was like, you better hurry up and get in it, because sooner or later there's going to be satellite and automated stations. There's not going to be any jobs.
Television was going to put radio out of business, and then cable was going to put television out of business, and
good real live local radio will always be okay.
Always be around. Hi there, Line 5. You're with us on the Eagle Talk Show.
Hi, evening, guys.
Howdy.
I'd like to ask a question about radio history.
Uh-oh.
Has it always been that the stations are sort of one format, say country or rock or whatever, or were they tried to be eclectic and then they had to tune into what the listener wanted?
Stations in general you're talking about now, right? No, not at all. In fact, in the early days of radio, they were kind of like what you see on TV now. They were what we call block programming. They had special shows. They had a breakfast show for 2 hours in the morning, and then they went to a quiz show, and then the mystery shows and that kind of thing. And really what happened to change that was when television came along and basically adopted the radio format of that era, 40s and 50s. Radio stations had to do something, because no longer were you going to sit there and listen to the Batman show, and you could turn on your TV set and watch it. So they had to develop something different, and that's when the one format stations, basically music oriented, or in some specific cases talk shows or news shows, came into existence. So it really started, I guess, the specialty formats, the one format per station concept really started in the late 50s, early 60s.
Oh, that's interesting. How about, do you think that the amount of people that they hire, or the amount of people that are employed by radio, is it a lot more now than it was, say, before the 50s?
Wow. I don't know. I would say in individual stations it probably is, because back then, just like you have network television, where, Miami Vice is on in every city across the country, you had network radio. So there may have been more programs, but there weren't necessarily any more jobs, because a lot of those programs came out of New York or Los Angeles and went all over the country and took up half your day. So here, in the modern era, the stations that are locally programmed, they may have one format, but they usually have more individuals working there than they did in the old days.
Also, even today, new radio stations are going on virtually every month. So around the country. So, yeah, sure, there are more people.
All right. Happy New Year, guys.
Thanks for listening.
You too. All right, bye-bye. It's 1210 and 97.1 KEGL and the Eagle Talk Show. Line 1, you with us?
Yeah. I'm calling up originally from Nebraska.
Okay.
and up there, the radio stations are real, you know, worried about the reputation. And when I moved down here, I realized, like, Moby, you know, he says all that stuff. And I want to know if they do anything different down here to get away with the stuff. So if it's just a matter of having to do it to compete, you know, with all the radio stations down here.
What town in Nebraska did you say you were from?
I'm from Omaha.
And they don't have anything like what we're doing down here in Omaha? Nothing, I mean, even close?
Well, they didn't even play, like, the George Michael or whatever, so, you know.
Really? Okay, but they were that conservative they didn't even play I Want Your Sex.
Yeah.
Okay. It probably is just the difference in the communities and the competitive situation. How many stations are in Omaha, do you know about?
There's about 3 that would be like the Eagle.
Okay, but I mean, how do you know, like, if there's 10 altogether or 12 altogether? Not just like the Eagle, but like all radio stations.
There's probably about 10.
Okay, because see, now here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there's over 30.
Yeah.
And that, obviously, as you can understand, with that many stations to choose from, there is going to be a little bit more intense competition, and some stations are going to take a few more chances, and that's probably why. Thanks for calling.
Thank you very much.
I know in New York, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Chicago, all the major cities, you've got stations like you do basically here in Dallas, of one type or another.
Sure. Line 2, you're with us. Excuse me, I'm losing the voice.
We're going crazy.
Line 2, you're with us on the Eagle.
How you doing?
Great.
Okay.
Good. I got a question for you. Apparently you've talked it before. I just tuned into your station not even about 5 minutes ago and found out you had a talk show on.
Oh, yeah, just our regular Sunday night talk show, only this time we're going to focus on what we do rather than on what somebody else does.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you have the program director there because I need to ask him a question, and also I need to ask you a question.
I'll hold him down. Go ahead.
Okay. I used to be a radio DJ myself across Des Moines, Iowa, and down here in Texas.
Okay.
At a few local stations. Now, and I won't say the name because...
What do you do now?
Excuse me?
What are you doing now?
Right now, I sell a radiant barrier for the insulation.
You sell what?
A radiant barrier?
Ooh, I don't know what that is.
It sounds painful.
It stops your air conditioner and heater from running constantly.
Oh, okay.
In the winter.
Well, go on then. Now that we know what you're doing now.
Okay. And also, I need to know some of the, what do you specify as far as DJs getting a start, like down here in the Metroplex? What do you suggest they do as far as breaking into the scene of radio?
Okay, well, we had talked a little bit earlier about how you get into the radio business in general, and one of those things that we said was the idea of getting a lot of hands-on experience in smaller market situations. Now, if you've already worked in Des Moines and...
Des Moines, Iowa, and down here in Belton, Killeen, and Waco area.
Okay, so you've got some small market experience.
Yes, I do.
Well, the best thing I would tell you to do then is get a demo tape of your airwork at those stations together and send it off to all the stations in Dallas.
Okay, let me ask you something, though.
Okay.
What would happen if I don't have a demo tape? How can I go about getting one?
We used you as a classic example earlier in the show. I guess we might as well do this. Let's create a little controversy here. Let me ask you this.
Okay.
How many years altogether did you work at those different stations? If you added up 6 months here and 1 year here and 3 months there, how much total time?
About 3 years.
About 3 years. And you were on the radio 5 or 6 days? Say it again?
I didn't have a radio telephone operator's license either, and some I found out require that.
Okay, but you worked on the air 5 or 6 years total.
Well,
is that what you said?
3 years.
2 or 3 years. Okay.
2 remaining years that you mentioned was like taking out the trash, helping.
Okay, but did you do at any time at any of those stations, did you get to be on the radio?
Yes, sir. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever make a tape of any of the things that you did while you were on the radio?
Yeah, but see, the station held those, and I don't even know if they have them.
You didn't even get your mother or your girlfriend to tape you at home?
No.
See, that was your mistake.
Yeah.
That's the key. You if you've ever been on the radio somewhere, you should always have proof on tape that you were on the radio at that station. For the simple reason to keep you, it helps you because this keeps a dishonest person who's never worked in radio in their life from coming up here and representing that they have, and you applying for the same job and somehow or another losing it out to that person who didn't have the tape. In other words, if 2 resumes come in and they look the same, what's the only way you can tell who's better? Well, you listen to the demo tape of the person, you get both of them, and you make your decision based on that. And if one is a fraud and one is real, obviously that's the way you get the advantage. Now, the fact that you don't have one, you're in trouble.
You're like a pilot looking for work without a logbook, you know?
Yeah. Well, see, I had a station go ahead and record me, do a demo tape on.
Yeah.
because I mentioned that I knew about the pods and the news reports and the AP room,
Sure.
you know.
Sure.
And of course, I don't hang around radio stations just to know that, you know.
Well, the possibility exists that you could get somebody to do that for you. But the fact of the matter is that in this big of a level, in the major market situation, in the major league situation, it's a matter of time and the available facility. There's something going on in our radio station's taping rooms all day long.
Yeah.
So why should we take the time to help you do something that you should have done for yourself? And I'm not criticizing you. I'm just trying to make a point that for every legitimate application that we get at a station like the Eagle, there's 10 people like you who swear they've done it before but can't prove it, and every one of them wants us to give them some time in our practice room so they can make a demo tape. My point to you is that if you really want a job and you really have the experience, you need to get that tape made, even if it means you've got to go to a college station and borrow one of their studios or go rent a studio or whatever.
I understand.
Follow? Okay. Then you'll have a shot. Then send it out.
Okay, I got one more question.
Real quick.
Now, I was involved in a few rock and roll bands in the Midwest.
Okay.
But we'd had a hard time. We shopped around the radio stations with music and stuff like that. Could we do that, like, down here in the Metroplex?
Sure, I would say. I think you ought to contact all the record labels based down here and let them know about your work. And same situation as looking for a job in the radio business. If you can let those folks know that you're out there and they have an opening or they have an interest in finding some new bands, their person who's in charge of that will come to you and want to hear your demo tape.
We're kind of like Bon Jovi, you know.
Do you have a demo tape of the band?
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have a demo tape of the band?
Yeah, I got about 20 of them back in Iowa.
There you go.
Then you got to get them down here.
See, I've been a drummer and lead vocal almost all my life, and I'm hoping to record the album hopefully at Planet Dallas before July of '88.
All I want to know is, are you selling any of those things that you sell?
Excuse me?
Are you selling any of those, what did you call them that you do for a living now?
Medium burger.
Okay, with all these other things you got going on, you having any time to sell any of those and make any money?
Oh, yeah.
Good, we just wanted to make sure of that.
Everybody wants to cut their utility bills, right?
That's right.
And Eagle Shield's the way to go.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Have a good day. Have a good New Year's.
Okay, thanks.
I appreciate your call. It's about 11, it's 12:16 rather, KEGL, and hi there, line 3, you're with us on the Eagle Talk Show.
How you doing?
Great.
Okay, I got two questions for you. One is, I've cut a few practice demo tapes and turned them into some small market stations at a college station.
Right.
In their studios.
You cut the demo tape in a college station and you turned it into some small market professional stations.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. Now, I just did it, in the practice studio.
Okay.
Is it better to use their call letters? Do they care? Is there a preference, or?
They don't care.
They don't care?
No, if you're doing a demo tape, it doesn't really matter. I mean, if you've got the choice, if you're doing a special demo tape for one individual station, then you might as well go ahead and use their call letters. But the reality is they don't care about that. It's the idea of how you handle the delivery of the call letters and whether or not you understand the importance of saying them and that kind of thing. So when we get real air checks, see, you must understand that once you get a professional job, there should never be a need. That's what we're teasing this other guy about. There should never be a need for you to make a demo tape again.
Right.
You should just be taking real tape of your real show on that real station.
Right.
And obviously, you're going to, if it's a real tape you're sending out, you're going to send the call letters that are on the real tape. So it doesn't matter.
Sure. Okay. Also, question two. The FCC. I've seen a newspaper article about the FCC. It was Blue Radio or something about it a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago.
We like green radio here. Go ahead.
And they had you guys at the top of the list, the morning show, the old morning show.
Stevens and Pruitt?
Yeah.
Oh.
I was wondering how the FCC handles that. Do they send y'all a letter? Or do they come out there to the station?
I was going to say, if they had us on the top of some list, we didn't know about it because, to my knowledge, the station's never been asked any questions by the FCC regarding the programming. If they had us up there and thought we were in violation of some kind of an FCC rule, they surely would let us know about it. And we've never been told.
They kept it to themselves.
Okay, and also I was looking through the regulation book at my college station.
Ah.
And it said that if you don't give the call letters and the frequency and the city served at sometime during the hour.
That's correct.
You can, the air talent himself can be fined $300 by the FCC.
That may be so.
Technically, that is correct. You'll hear at the top of the hour, basically, is the time you have a 5-minute leeway either side, either, let's say, 11:55 or 12:05. Somewhere in there, they have to give the legal call letters, which are KEGL, Fort Worth, Dallas, City of License.
You'll hear us say all the time, I'll hit 97.1 KEGL or the Eagle or Eagle 97 or whatever it might be. But, yeah, legally we must do the KEGL Fort Worth, Dallas
And I was wondering, does FCC ever monitor at random?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
They do it all the time.
That's what they're paid to do.
I see. Okay, thanks.
Sure, thanks for the call.
Thank you for your call. You want to talk to the boss man tonight, the program director of the, I'll say it again, the #1 contemporary hit radio station in Dallas-Fort Worth.
It sounds so nice.
It rolls right out of my mouth so smoothly. John Roberts, our in-studio guest tonight on the Eagle Talk Show, and line 4. Hi there, you with us?
Hey, what is the emergency broadcast system?
Boy, you gotta... Well, we'll be back next week with the continuation of the talk show.
Jeez. You want to answer that one? I need a drink.
Sure. The emergency broadcast system was set up a long time ago when people were afraid of the Russians nuking us and other things. Actually, it's a pretty good system. Fortunately, we've never had to officially use it. Some stations, there's like a flagship station in each city, and I won't give the call letters to the one in this city. We are not the flagship station, the one that, in case of a nuclear attack, the only one left on the air. But basically, they come on with official information and words right from the president in case if it's a nuclear situation. Or they also broadcast simple things like the emergency broadcast system is activated for like tornado watches and warnings, which we don't normally do at this radio station simply because we get on and say, hey, the National Weather Service has just issued. We don't run the little tones that sound like where are my tones. Here we go.
I don't know. What was the system put in place maybe about 30 years ago or something like that? There you go. That's what it sounds like. Kill that sucker.
There we go. All right. But that's it. About 30 years ago.
In the event of a national emergency or even a major local emergency, it would be a way to alert all the stations that this emergency situation was in progress and to cease all regular programming and either go off the air or just pass along the specific information in question.
All right.
Okay? We make fun of it because, as J.D. said, fortunately, nobody's ever had to use it, at least to the scope of a national emergency, since they thought of it. And hopefully they never will.
We never will have to do it. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you a lot. We appreciate your call. Hi there, line 5. You're with us on the Eagle Talk Show.
Hello, guys. How you doing?
Okay.
Good. Hey, listen, I've got a question. I had an advertising class in college once, and we had to look up different advertising rates from stations all over the country.
Right.
And they had the ratings of all the stations in each city. And I noticed that Cleveland had a station, an FM rock station, that was #1. Mm-hmm. And it was the only station in the whole country that was a rock station, #1. And even in Rolling Stone, every year they come out with their awards, has that Cleveland station #1 every year. Okay. I was just wondering, what is it about that station?
Okay, well, first of all, let me touch briefly on the situation. First of all, there's a difference between the real ratings, and the ratings in Rolling Stone magazine. Rolling Stone magazine conducts a listener or a reader's poll. Anybody who buys a Rolling Stone magazine can fill out the little entry blank and send in. So normally what happens in that particular case is that radio station asks all its listeners to send in the little entry card from the Rolling Stone magazine so they can win the award. In fact, the joke is I was listening to a station here in Dallas today that was mentioning that they would like to try and win that award, so they were asking their listeners to do the same thing. So just to get it out of Cleveland, I would hope that maybe some of those listeners of that station would do it. Uh-huh. But as far as the regular ratings go, there are a lot of cities where a rock and roll station is #1. I know at one point I worked in Indianapolis where the station that I worked with at that time was #1, and it was also a rock and roll radio station. It just depends on what particular rating book you're looking at and what particular city you're looking at as to whether or not the rock and roll station is the #1 station in that particular rating period. As far as that specific station, for years and years, they for whatever reason have not had a lot of competition. And I'm not taking anything away from their ability as a radio station, but I've heard the station, and they're no great shakes. They're okay. I don't know what it is, but that's Cleveland. We don't worry about Cleveland. We only care about Dallas.
I heard that they were the first ones that played Springsteen in Boston and all that, and that's why they've got that technique.
Oh, well, that they may have been the first ones in Cleveland to play Springsteen in Boston and that kind of thing. I can tell you for a fact that there were stations in Atlantic City, New Jersey, playing Springsteen in 1973. So, it just depends on what part of the country you're talking about. In that area, in that part of Ohio, I guess they were the big lead new music station. That's the best I can tell you.
Okay. Any chance of getting a guest DJ hour?
Anything's a possibility.
Sure,
Are you volunteering?
I live in Pittsburgh, and there's a couple stations that had them on. I was on a couple times. I had a blast. And it was been ongoing up there, and I noticed that down here, they just kind of, nobody has it.
They did that here for a while at the Eagle, matter of fact. When they first switched over to the Eagle format, they sure did. The Sunday night, this exact time space from 11 to 1 was the amateur hour. And
see, it's the amateur hour now, 5 years later. Got a couple of clowns on here this time. No, thanks for the suggestion. We'll take a look at that. Maybe we'll try something like that.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. It's a good idea. Also, we should open the phone lines tonight for ideas. It's a new year. Maybe these people come up with some incredible new ideas. Maybe.
But before you talk about the new year, it's a great time to remind the folks about how we're going to look back at the music of this past year.
1987 in review?
That's right. This Thursday afternoon at 4 o'clock, it's the annual countdown of the hottest songs from the past year, the top 97 of 87. Featuring all the great rock and roll tunes that made the last 12 months so special. We're going to put them in the spotlight right through New Year's Day, so you're going to have plenty of time to find out where your particular favorites end up on the chart. If you're going out New Year's Eve and you only catch the first few hours, don't worry. You can get the rest of it the next day, see? Be part of the Metroplex holiday tradition. We've been doing this for many years.
Many a year.
The Eagles year-end countdown, the top 97 of 87. It gets underway this Thursday afternoon at 4, and we'll continue all the way through New Year's Day night.
Roll tape. It'll be fun. Get TDK 90s out, all right? Line 1, are you with us?
Yeah.
Hi there.
Hi. Speaking of ideas, I've got one.
Okay. We're ready.
First of all, I'd like to say I love Moby.
So do we.
Great. And second,
He's too ugly for me, but anyway. Go ahead.
he didn't pay me to say that either.
Oh, that's good. Okay. He'd go broke if he...
I go to Ogle School of Hair Design, and we get out at 5:30. And I missed Kid Craddock's Burn Your Bun edition, and we're really ticked about that.
Oh, no. You get out at 5:30?
Yes, and as soon as we all have to clock out at the same time, so it takes us about 10 minutes to get out, so I've missed it.
Oh.
When I get to my car, he's ending it.
Oh, my.
And I'd really, really appreciate it, and so would everybody at our school, if you'd just kind of throw that up about 10 minutes longer.
We'll see what we can do.
Also, in the works, possibly, a Kid Craddock, a best of Burn Your Buns album to be available for the new year. Who knows?
Oh, seriously?
You never know. Well, we've toyed around that idea. It might come to fruition in '88.
I think that's a good idea.
But I'll mention to him that you're missing it by about 5 minutes, so maybe we can do something about
10
that.
minutes, and all of us would be so happy if you just let us listen.
How long does it take for you to get from the door to your car?
Okay, it's off Pipeline, and it's so busy, the traffic and everything.
Right.
And my car we all just clock out at the same time, and they go by each phase that you're in.
Right.
And if you get called last, if you're in the last phase,
you don't get out till about 20 or quarter of. Yeah, okay.
For the traffic around there, if you did it any later than that, we'd still be able to hear it because we'd be stuck in traffic anyway.
Sure.
We'll tell Kid to talk slower, okay? All right.
Thanks for your call. We appreciate it very much.
It's about 12:27 at KEGL, and you're listening to the Sunday Night Talk Show with the boss man tonight. He's in the spotlight. You can nail him to the wall or something. I guess I shouldn't say that.
I get punchy this late, too. I'm not normally up this late. I have to wake up extra early to hear what Moby's up to. So
this is John Roberts, our program director here at the Eagle, and line 2. Hi, we're on the Eagle Talk Show. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I want to know what happened to Andrea Lively.
I believe she's working in Pittsburgh.
Well, I mean, did she and Moby have a disagreement?
Oh, no, not at all. She was the pilot in Black Thunder, and she had an opportunity to go be a full-time disc jockey person. And it was just like we mentioned earlier. Sometimes you have career opportunities that are too good to turn down, and that's what happened.
Is that what happened to Clarence Lott?
No, he doesn't. He didn't work for us. He worked for the people that own Black Thunder. And I don't know what the situation is there. They provide us with our traffic reporters now.
Oh, well, you have a good one now.
Thank you. We like Hollywood.
We love Hollywood.
This edition of Hollywood.
He's a hot man. Plus, he grows a great beard. Hi, line 3. You're with us on the Eagle.
How you doing, man?
Great.
All right, I want to talk about wrestling again.
Oh, okay. I'm ready. I'm ready for a change of pace.
All right.
You know, no hold is tougher to get out of than the camel clutch. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Anyway, by the way, Al Perez did win.
He did win the world title? How did that occur? Was that a tainted victory?
Well, Gary Hart, he was handcuffed to the ropes.
Correct.
Because Frisk wasn't there.
Right.
He had to go to the hospital.
Right.
And, Al Perez was swinging him around and...
Swinging Curry around.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Swung him to the ropes and, Gary Hart, these were real long handcuffs, right?
Yeah, real long.
Hart got on the inside of the ring,
okay.
And Al Perez swung him, and he hit his head on the handcuffs, and then Al Perez pinned him.
Oh,
right
boy.
there.
Okay.
But anyway, before that, Kerry was in a match. Was a bunch of people in a match, and
in the pole vault battle royal.
The Corvette, yeah.
So he won it.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I didn't know what happened. Did you have a question, or were you just letting me know about that?
That's it, man.
I appreciate you letting me know. In fact, we'll see if Kerry gets another crack at that title. You know, Chris Adams is going to go for it on Monday night.
Get to two.
Okay. Well, thanks for your call. We appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Hi, line 4. You're on the Eagle Talk Show.
Hey, guys. JD John.
Yo. Hi.
How you doing?
Okay.
Listen, I'm just about to graduate with a degree in radio TV.
Okay.
And I've got a couple of questions for you.
Fire away.
First of all, John.
Yeah.
What's going to impress you most on a resume? Are you looking for grades? Are you looking for extracurricular activities?
No, you're missing. Well, you want to be an on-air performer?
Yeah, on air. Huh?
Okay, I'll tell you what's going to impress me the most. Where have you done it before? See, in order to be a professional radio announcer in the major leagues, which is what Dallas is, you've got to have experience. You don't get your first job out of college in Dallas. You get your first job out of college in the middle of nowhere, Texas.
Right. Well, what about, now what's going to impress the PD at a small station?
Okay, what's going to impress him is, have you worked at the college station? Do they have one?
Yeah, which I have.
Okay, that's the most important thing you can tell them. What have you done on that college station? And can you give them a tape that proves it or shows them what you've done? That would be the most important thing. Oh. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Okay, that leads into my next question.
Okay.
Which is going to carry more weight, grades or the air check?
The air check.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to disillusion you. I'm sure your professors wouldn't like...
Believe me, that's not a disillusion. I'm glad you said it.
Well, I'm sure your professors wouldn't like me to say that, but the bottom line is that that it's all based on the first criteria is how does he sound on the tape. And if it was down to you and another guy who sounded equally talented on the tape, then they may take a look at the grade situation because they may say, this guy's got better grades. He must be a quicker learner. He must be more astute and more conscientious about what he's doing. Therefore, he'll pick up the routine better.
Okay, one more real quick question.
Sure.
Internships.
Okay.
Important?
I think it's helpful. Okay. I don't think it's necessary. Did you have any?
Well, I've got a choice now between interning at a radio station or with a consulting firm.
Radio programming consulting firm?
Mm-hmm. A real big one.
Jeez. Well, I don't know. I've never had that alternative put in front of me before. I don't know which would be better. You know, I mean, if you aspire to be a program director, it probably wouldn't hurt to be with that consulting firm in some capacity.
Well, I guess that's, if you want to be on air, I guess being a PD would be not a bad short-term goal, right?
Well, it usually works the other way. You know, you're almost never going to become a PD if you've never been on the air before. I would say that for down the road, to learn what goes on in the programming industry, a programming consulting firm would certainly be helpful. But I really don't know I think in that situation, you probably would get more first-hand experience and more knowledge of what could help you in your first job by being at the radio station rather than with the consulting firm. Maybe I tell you, if it was me, I'd try to get a deal going with both of them. I'd try to do the radio station 3 days a week in the consulting firm too, or something like that.
All right.
All right. Hey, good luck.
Hey, thank you much.
Thank you. Line 5. Hi, you're on the Eagle Talk Show. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got a question for John.
Yeah.
I was wondering why on some songs y'all might not play the same version as another station.
Ah, good question.
You know, the song is a long song and y'all might, cut it off before the end of it.
Okay, well, normally what we try to do is play the version that the people have let us know is their favorite. Sometimes there's 12-inch dance mixes of songs that take 7 minutes, but the reality is that 4 minutes is just repetitive ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. So in those situations, we'll normally take the shorter version that has the meat of the song, and probably it's the version that's on the album, which is normally the stuff we like to play. Other times there will, and I won't deny it, there are situations where the version on the album is 7 minutes long, and for timing purposes, we just can't take that much time with a particular tune, so we will do what we call a homemade edit and shorten it up so that we give you the gist of what the song is, but don't take up 7 minutes doing it. The one that comes to mind when Genesis had Tonight out, I think that was 6.5 minutes long on the Invisible Touch album, and we cut it down to 4.5.
But the whole middle part was nothing but drums and doom, 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 boom, boom, over and over and over and over and over. In fact, then the record company came out and did the exact same edit on their single.
So sometimes we're forced to do that, but primarily we try to play the version that the people have let us know is the one that they like the most.
Yeah. We do research. If there's a question in our mind, we'll do a research like the White Snake, Still of the Night. There's an example.
Here I Go Again is another example. There were 2 versions of Here I Go Again out by Whitesnake, and we started with one and then through our research determined that the other one was more popular, so we switched.
Yeah.
So that's basically what goes into it, okay?
All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks for the call.
Thank you. Hi there, Line 1. You're with us on the Eagle Talk Show.
Yes, I listen to Kid Craddock, Burn Your Buns, every chance I get, and there's one thing I've been really wondering.
Okay.
Most people take it in stride that they've been burned.
Yeah.
But more than once, they've gotten really upset over it.
Yeah.
Have they ever brought legal action? What happens with this?
No, we've never
We pass them some concert tickets and a T-shirt, and they realize once they calm down that it was just a joke, and they get over it. And most of the time, what you hear when they're upset is their initial reaction that somebody has pulled a joke on them, and they're not too pleased. But then 5-10 minutes goes by, and they think it's pretty funny.
All right, do you remember, this was a few weeks ago, about the magician who they wanted to hire for him to raise a body?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that one. That sounds like a great premise. He was somebody really felt
his magic items at?
Yeah.
Somebody really fell for that, huh?
He was legitimately angry originally, and then about 5 minutes, I was in the studio that day, and about 5 minutes, the guy was laughing. He loved it. He thought it was great. He says, "I'm going to be on the radio?" And kid said, "Yeah." And he thought from then on, they were best buddies, huh?
You don't do it live?
Well,
no. Normally it is done just before you hear it. Normally, in other words,
only because you never know if they're even going to be there when you call them. If it wouldn't be very funny if we called them and just
if you hear it at if it's coming on at 3:35, he's normally made the call at about 3:30, just enough time to get it done and then get the tape rewound to the spot where it starts so you can hear it fresh.
Do you ever have to edit out the language?
Sometimes.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Sure, thanks for the call.
Thank you. It's about 12:35. Your chance to talk to the boss man.
Boy, you better take advantage of it, because I don't know when you're going to get this chance again.
The program director of KEGL Fort Worth, Dallas, John Roberts, is our guest tonight. Line 2. Hi.
Hi, John.
Hi.
Hi, JD.
Howdy, baby.
Who are you?
My name is Teresa. I'm in North Richland Hills.
Okay, what can we do for you, Teresa?
Okay, well, I have a satellite dish, and every once in a while I pick up Capital Radio from London, England.
Oh, jeez. Cheerio. Pip, pip.
Man. In fact, they got a lot of similarities to your station.
Really?
Especially they did a thing about Burn Your Buns over there, which I was amazed. They called up a receptionist.
Wow.
And they asked them stupid questions. And
they didn't do it very good, is what you're saying. They didn't do it very well.
Well, they did it almost as good, but not like kids.
Okay.
Okay, well, my question is, that station is run mainly by the government.
Exactly.
Okay, now, if the British government does not like a song, for example, George Michael's I Want Your Sex,
right,
they either, 1, don't play it, 2, play the side 2 of the song, or if they really gets on the top of the charts, they play it in the late hours.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what I'd like to know is, have y'all ever been pressured by a certain group of people to not play a song, whereas it is popular, like in Los Angeles, where they hardly ever have any problems, such as with the Bible Belt?
I understand. No, I can't recall any incidents of music where we've been questioned for playing a song. In fact, I Want Your Sex, I guess, was probably the most controversial song of 1987, and we didn't get maybe a couple of calls, but in the overall scheme of things, I don't even recall any real pressure from any group or any individuals on why we played the song. I suppose that does occur from time to time, but I can't say that we've had that come up here at the Eagle.
Dallas is a little more liberal market,
than what people would believe.
Sure.
Yeah.
I know the British situation that you're talking about, though. I've read stories where the BBC has banned certain tunes and whatnot. But
oh, gosh, yes. Even if you mention one little thing,
sure,
you go crazy over it. And in fact, Tina Turner also had a song, Private Dancer, where she mentions the American Express card, and they had it edited out, because over there you don't mention product.
Ah.
And it's crazy. But, I still listen to the radio station.
It's government radio.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Where do you live?
North Richland Hills.
And you got a dish that picks up radio? I mean, I didn't even know that Capital Radio was on a satellite. I'm surprised you can pick that up.
Okay, well, see, ABC News does their news from London.
Oh, okay.
So the news from Japan coincides with that, too. I mean, I listen to it maybe, an hour and a half before they go to the test pattern into the news.
They run it down the line.
Yeah, but for the filming time, it's
right.
Capital Radio. And I really like it. I was in shock when I found that out.
Have you ever talked to Jay Walker, who works here on Saturdays sometimes?
No, I have not.
You should call him, because he's really into that, into listening to long-distance radio stations and that kind of thing. He and you may have something in common.
The difference is he listens to NASA and...
oh, yeah, he'll tell you some real bizarre stuff.
From tuning it too much.
All right. Hey, we appreciate the call.
Thanks for a call.
Oh, you have a nice evening.
All righty. Okay. We're kind of running out of time here. We're trying to get a couple more calls in. Hi, line 4. You're talking to John Roberts on the Eagle.
Hello.
John.
Hi.
How do you get into sales and marketing and radio?
Oh, sales and marketing and radio. Well, that's another one where we needed King Eddie in to answer that question.
Go ahead and call him. I don't think he'd mind.
sort of the same way as we talked about with the on-air, from the standpoint that I think it's easier to break in if you go to a smaller market situation where, again, due to the rates that they charge for commercials, they can't afford to get the experienced people who want the big money, so they'll take a shot on a younger person with less experience. Although I know there are more cases of rookies getting a start in the Dallas level markets in sales than there are in the on-air